Welcome to the Learn It channel. In this next part of our shed tutorial series, you will learn how to make the doors using in-context design methods. You will learn how to download and install door hardware, including the hinges, and then insert your door assembly into your shed design. Don't forget to stay to the end to see another helpful feature within Autodesk Fusion. If you've benefited from the previous 3 tutorials, you will love this tutorial. We're going to talk about some new design methods. If you haven't seen those tutorials, we highly encourage you to watch them and to follow along to create your own shed as well. So what we've learned up to this point is we have created all these sub-assemblies within one design. But what we're going to do today is create our doors in its own design. And the reason for that is let's assume that in the future we're going to have various different sizes and shapes of sheds, but we'd like to use the template that we've created for our doors and just insert that into our current project for our shed. That way we don't have to always make a new door assembly every time that we create a new type of shed. So how do we do that? Well, let's create a new design here and we'll save this right away and let's call it our door template. Now under a door template, we're going to have our left door and our right door. So let's create new components here. We're going to call our first component our left door and our second component as our right door. Now under these, these are going to be assemblies themselves and they're going to have components within them. For example, we're going to have the upright, we're going to have the stiles, we're going to have the panel for our door, we're going to have any hardware that we put on those doors as well. So before we do anything, we need to look at the basic size of our door opening here. So how can we do that? Let's just zoom into our tutorial shed and we're going to select one edge, hold down Shift and select the edge that you want to measure. And that's 66 inches. It shows it down in the bottom. So a lot of people use this measure command. It's just an extra step that I find unnecessary unless it's a complicated measurement. We can do the same thing up here. We can pick that edge, hold down Shift, pick the bottom edge, and it's 87.5. So this is going to be the opening of our door. And we're going to click on there and let's create, not under left door or right door, let's activate our primary assembly and let's create our master sketch in there. So I'm going to create it on our XZ plane and I'm going to create a center rectangle and let's just put in the size of our door opening. So this is going to be 87.5. Press tab to go to the next dimension. I can zoom out for you there. Remember, tab goes back and forth between dimensions and this one's going to be 66. Now remember, this can move right now. It's not constrained. I'd like to constrain this bottom edge or line to the midpoint of it to our origin. So how can we do that? Very simple. Just pick midpoint, pick our edge, pick the origin, and everything snaps together there. Very good. Now I'd like to turn this all into reference lines or construction lines. Remember, we do that by clicking a line and pressing X, and there it turns into a reference line. Now I could go all the way around and pick each edge and do that. What if there's 100 edges? Well, this would be tedious, right? So we're going to just double click our line and it picks all chained entities and it will select all of them. And I can just press X now, and now they're all reference lines. Now, as we proceed, there's going to be a little bit of a complication where I'd like to create both of the doors within one sketch to make sure that the sizing is correct and then export them into their individual components or sub-assemblies here, left door and right doors respectively. So that's why I'm creating a sketch on its own. And remember, this is just a different skill. This is not saying that you have to do it this way and this is the way to do it every single time. This is just to show you one skill and how to correct things if we need to in the future. So what I'm going to do is let's just create a random rectangle. Let's create 2 rectangles on the inside here. Make sure to not snap it to these construction lines. There we go. And let's have some fun with some constraints. So I want to use collinear and make this line collinear with this line. So let's do that. 1, 2. Do the same thing over here. 1, 2. Now let's add some dimensions. There's going to be a small gap on the left, the top, and the right in order to let our doors swing freely. So I'm going to pick those two lines. Remember, press D for dimension, or you can select it up there. I'm going to pick that edge, this edge, and we're going to call this 1/4 inch. So we can remember, if we remember dimension decimal values, then we can just type it in. If we don't, we can just go 1 divided by 4. And there's our fractional value. It automatically calculates it for us. Let's go D, top edge. There we go. Do the exact same thing, but instead of typing in 1/4 here, just click on your previous value. There we go. And it brings a function up of 1/4 inch. Remember, you can move these around. Once you've locked in the dimension, that you can just single click it and drag it. And that way you can, place your dimensions in a good location. Let's do the same thing over here. I'm going to pick those two edges, click this dimensional value, pick the top two there, that dimensional value. Very good. Now, the total gap between these two is going to be 1/4 inch. So I want to pick that edge and our center point, and we're going to call this our gap divided by 2. We're going to do the same thing over here. Pick this and our origin or our center point, and I'm going to select that dimension instead. Now, because everything is a function, let's assume that 1/4 inch is not big enough of a gap. I can just go here and let's go to 1/2 inch gap. You can see everything adjusts correspondingly, but let's just keep it at 1/4 inch. And that way we know we can fix this in the future if we need. So let's finish our sketch. And now we have the basic outline of both doors. Now, why don't we just mirror door left onto door right? Well, here's the thing. There's going to be an overlap and an underlap. So the doors are not going to be perfectly the same if we mirror them. That's why we're going to create 2 individual components, and that's why I've created 2 profiles. So let's extrude. Remember, we can just press E. We can also right click and press extrude down here as well. But let's just try and remember the shortcuts. It speeds up our workflow quite a bit. So E, we're going to pick this one, and we're going to move it out the size of our paneling, or the thickness of our paneling, which is 1/2 inch. Now, instead of going new body, we're going to go new component. So let's do that. We'll go OK. You can see here we've got component 3. Let's activate our sketch, make it visible, and we're going to press E, and we're going to do the same thing with this panel, minus 1/2 inch. The reason why I'm going this way, we can go either way, but the reason why we're going this way is it will make more sense later on with our shed when we get to that point. So I accidentally just created a new body here. I don't want to do that. I want to create another component. So minus 0.5, new component. There we go. So component 3 is actually going to be our panel. And this one's going to be our panel as well. We're just going to make them both name as panel. And panel 1, we're going to drag into our left door. And this panel we're going to drag into the right door. So what this means is we can hide our primary sketch. And now we've got these 2 subcomponents, or sub-assemblies, I should say. And right now it's just one panel. But we're going to work with these. We're going to make them more complicated. We're going to add all of the styles, the uprights, the angle pieces, hardware, and all of that to make it look all good, nice and good. So let's add this overlap first of all. So what I'm going to do is activate left door, and let's create a sketch on this top face. Now we could really create it anywhere, but let's just create it on the top face. And here I am going to add this little overlap. Now it's going to be 0.25, and this is going to be 1 inch. So I've got this little piece right here that I would like to now extrude. So, and actually I've done a big no-no. We've activated left door, but I'd actually like to include this with the panel right now. So I'm just going to undo that sketch. I'm going to activate panel. And here we're going to create a sketch on that top. We're going to do the exact same thing. And do you know what I want to do is, instead of putting a value where it says 0.3 right now, I'd like to say that this is 1 inch. Just leave the 0.3 this is not constrained. I'd like to constrain this endpoint to the midpoint of this line. I'd always like it to be at the midpoint. And that way, if I adjust the thickness of this panel, this will adjust automatically. Now you can see it actually snapped to the point there. But if it moves on you, we can just go to midpoint, pick the end point of our line, and then this line in general. And what it's going to do is it's going to snap that endpoint to the midpoint of the line. There we go. Let's go finish sketch. And now we can extrude this profile, and we can go extent type to object, and we're going to pick the underside of our door. Let's just go down there and pick that. Perfect. We don't have to put any dimensional value. We just say go to that endpoint, and we're going to go join. Perfect. So now what do we do? Well, we have to do we have to go to our combine tool, and we actually need to, and what we're going to do is go to our right door panel, let's activate that, and we can go to our combine tool. We can select our target body, which is our right door panel frame. And our tool body is going to be our left door panel frame. So we're just going to click on that, and look what happens. So here, it cuts out our right door panel frame, but it probably for you will start with operation of join. And we don't want to join everything together. We want to cut. And our tool is our left door panel frame. We want to keep that tool. We don't want it to disappear. If I were to go OK right now, our left door panel frame is gonzo beans. So if I expand panel, there's no body, it's gone. So I have to go back to that combine tool and click keep tools. There we go. So now our left door panel frame is still there. Our right door panel frame is there, but we've got this nice overlap, which will keep critters and stuff from going in and keep the doors nice and strong as well. Very good. So now that we have our left door assembly ready, our right door assembly ready with one component in each, our panel, now we can start adding all of the key elements to each door to finish it off. So let's do our left door first of all. I'm going to activate that. And what are we going to add right now? Well, we'd like to add all of the sub-components. How can we do that? Well, in this instance, what I'd like to do is create a sketch on our door panel. So remember, we've activated left door. Let's create a sketch on that door panel, and let's start sketching all of our design elements. So what I'm going to do here is let's create our top style and our bottom style. And here we've got to make sure to select the right point to snap onto. There we go. And let's do our uprates here. Very good. Let's just start off with that. So let's press D for dimension and start adding the dimensions for our 2x4s. So this is going to be 3.5 inches thick. We can do the same thing. Let's pick this right there and just click on the 3.5 dimension. Let's do the same thing over here. 3.5 and down at the bottom. Very good. Now what I'd like to do is create the mid style. And what I'm going to do, let's just again have some fun here. I'm going to create a line going from the midpoint to midpoint. So let's just create a line. I'm not going to do it. What you can do is with your line tool right here, I could try and find the midpoint, but sometimes it's hard to do, especially if you're way out in the distance. But what I'd like to do is just show you with constraints how easy it is. You can pick any 2 points as long as they're not constrained anything, and then go midpoint, pick our ed point, and I want this constrained to the midpoint of this line. So boom, as soon as I do that, you can see everything is nice and constrained. Let's turn this into a construction line by pressing X. Now let's go center rectangle, and here I can go to the midpoint and create this mid style. Let's press D and create a dimension from there to there. Now it's going to be 3.5 inches. Perfect. So I've got the sketch elements for all of our different components here. But one last thing I'd like to do is create the angle pieces as well, the angle support. So I'm going to snap it to this intersection. And when I click on this edge, this line, make sure it's not snapping to anything. Okay, there we go. Now pick the corner here and do the same thing. Make sure it's not snapping to anything. I could make them parallel, but just for fun, let's practice our constraints. I'm going to make that on a completely random line. Oh, you can see it turned black because it's actually, what it did was made it perpendicular to this construction line right there. So you have to be careful that you don't accidentally constrain it somehow. There we go. Let's go there and there again. Perfect. Now let's practice our constraints. These lines need to be parallel. Pick parallel, pick our two lines, do the same thing over here. Now we're going to add a dimension between those two lines. It's going to be the angle dimension here. And this is also going to be 3.5 inches. Perfect. And that all snaps into location because it can only look like this with the particular constraints and the dimension that we have. Now we could do the exact same thing with these two lines. However, we could just simply go equal, and I say I want this line to be exactly the same as that line, and it will make everything constrained as well. So now that we've got all of our sketch profiles in place, we can create our individual components. Again, we're in left door. We've activated it. Now let's go extrude E. And we're going to pick this profile up there. And actually, why can we not? Oh, this is interesting. I can't pick these individual profiles because it still shows the sketch is active. I need to go to the original sketch. Okay, so sometimes this happens where you can't pick this particular profile that you want to select. So what we're going to do is still go to extrude, and we're going to hover over that particular profile, and we're going to long click. And there we have a face, and a profile. So that way we can pick the specific profile that we're looking for. I'm going to extrude this 1.5 inches, and this is going to be a new component. Let's go OK. And let's just go down the list here. Let's do the exact same thing. Lather, rinse, and repeat. Make sure to always create new components. Very good. So you can see now we have under our left door, we've got our panel component. We've got our top style, our upright, our angle, our other upright, mid style. We've got our other angle and our bottom style right there. So let's rename these now that we know what they are. Very good. And we can hide that sketch if we'd like. Now this is looking really good. We're going to do the exact same thing, but on the right door panel right now. So let's go to right door. We're going to isolate it. And we've got our panel. And you know what? We don't need to, let's make sure it's active. There we go. We're going to create our sketch and do all of the same sketch profiles in order to finish all of the other components' basic outlines. Let's do it. Create a sketch on that face, and let's do the exact same thing with our styles, uprights, and angles. There we have it. And now we can just extrude those into their individual components. And now it's letting me pick those as individual sketch profiles, which is going to be a whole lot easier. Now, I may have done a mistake on the other side of our left door there, but if you noticed what mistake I've made, let me know. That would be great. Let me know in the comments below. So let's go extrude and turn all these profiles into their individual components. And I'll speed it up here. There we have it. So we can hide our sketch. Now we've got all our basic components right there, and we can rename them once again. So this one here, I accidentally created as a body, not as a component. So I can just click on it, and in the timeline, it shows which tool I need to fix or which feature. So I'm just going to click on that and press delete. Now let's make our sketch visible, and we're going to extrude that, making sure to call it a new component. Let's do that. And here we can just rename these as well. Top, and angle bottom. Okay, so both our right door and our left door are finished with all of their individual components. Let's just make sure that we hide that sketch right now. Now, what we can do is let's make sure to, well, we can activate everything. Let's make sure all of our components are visible right now. And you can see we've got this nice overlap right there. All of the components are looking really good. Now what we can do is we have to create a rigid group. We have to say that all these components, the correct assemblies are joined together. Why? Because if we accidentally move a component off to the side, it's very hard to work with. And we can't put any animations or joint motion or anything like that. So I'm going to undo and let's create a rigid group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, under left door, let's pick our panel, hold shift and pick all of our components and say, okay, I want those joined together. And we're going to do the exact same thing, rigid group, and we're going to do panel to angle bottom and go okay. Now if I grab and move it, you can see they move off to the side as a rigid group. Now I don't want to do that. I want to revert position. Now here you might be asking, all right, well, we've created a reference size for the opening of our door, but how do we change that? Remember, our workflow is really good right now. And in fact, we can go to our original sketch. And because this isn't linked with a particular subassembly, it's related to our master assembly, we can just click on it. And let's assume that we're working with an 80-inch width and a 100-inch height. Let's just change those and look at everything is going to update automatically just like that. Even better, we could create a parameter. Let's just do this and we can add a new one. Let's call this our door opening width. And let's put this back to 66 and let's do our door opening height. And we'll call that 87.5. Now let's add these parameters to our original sketch. Let's type in width there and our height. Perfect, finish sketch. And now you can see in real time, we can go to our parameters here and change our width. Let's go to 100 and everything updates right there. We can go to a 200-inch height if we want. But yeah. Our width is supposed to be 66 and 87.5. So now we have full control. Now we're missing our bottom angles for some reason. So what happened to them? Well, we've got some sort of error over here. And why is that happening? Well, I just went undo and it fixed it for us. So there was just a little bug there. Let's save it at this point. Let's go change parameters, make sure that our width and our height are correct. And there we have it. So remember, everything is joined together. It's looking really good. So one thing I want to add right now is the handle. And remember, what we're going to do is the door actually swings open. Our right door has to swing open first before our left door. So we're going to add the handle to our right door. I'm going to activate that. Let's in fact isolate it. Oh, it's unisolated. Okay, we need to isolate it. Very good. And we are going to add another component. And this component is going to be a handle. So let's go to Insert McMaster Component and we'll type in handle. We can pick a handle there and just find that one that we really like. I don't know, let's go to this one and let's pick maybe number 6. Very good. And we can make sure to download a step file and then go download. And remember, we've activated right door. And it's going to input this. It's going to download our handle into our subassembly. There it is. Let's just move this off to the side. And now we'd like to join this handle to our door. Now, this is interesting. We do not have a location to join the center of this handle. We need to create one. And this is a really cool assembly technique. Let's go to Joint Origin. So some positions have changed. Yeah, let's go revert position. It's just going to put our handle back into position there. And you know what we can do before we end up creating that position? Let's just click on our handle and isolate it. And we can revert position there. Let's just do it at this position instead. And we can create this joint origin. Now it's looking for a snap location. Well, I want to actually create it in between two faces. And we can create it, let's see, they should be Yeah, I'm going to create this face here and that. And now we can pick a point of a snap point. So I'm going to pick anything on this top face, and we can pick any midpoint here. There we go. And now what do we have? We've got this snap point floating on the inside. However, the orientation is not right. So we need to reorient it. And here we can just pick a face and it will reorient that snap point to our face. And we can go OK. And now we've got this floating snap point that's right in the middle of our component. Again, if there was a face there, we would be able to pick it no problem. But here we have to create this snap point. So let's isolate our right door. And now we can join this component. We can pick that snap point and we can pick that point on our door. We can just rotate it into place. And would you look at it? We've got this all ready to go for us. Now I'd like to just hide that joint. There we go. Perfect. Now, one last thing that we want to do is we want to download all of the hinges for our doors. And that way, if we do all of the work right now, including relationships and our joint motion, well, that will be easier when we input this template or import this template into future projects. So let's do the exact same thing. Now, what I'd like to do is let's just start off with our right door. Why not? And we're going to find some hinges that we're going to work with. But we're going to have to fix those hinges. First of all, we're going to have to add some proper joints and motion and all this to it. So before we get to that point, we'd like to just send out a special thank you to all of our YouTube, Patreon members, to those who have bought us coffees, to those who have supported us, to those who have purchased our Udemy course as well. If you're interested in learning from the ground up, Udemy course, the details are in the description to this video below. Thank you all so much for your support. We are very grateful for your help. So now let's activate right door. We're going to go to Insert McMaster Car Component and we're going to go to Hinges. And let's scroll down here. I would love to know the exact hinge that you would recommend, those who have, expertise in this area. Please let me know in the comments below which hinge you would like, but I'm just going to go to strap hinges over here, and I'm going to pick something with the width being less than 3.5. So why don't we just go down here and try and find something? Here we go. Stainless polished. We've got 3 1/8 right there. Why don't we do that? We can download this. Let's just take a look at what it looks like. And yeah, they're probably not big enough, but let's just start off with this hinge. That's going to be kind of fun to work with. Now let's just rotate this a little bit, make it look like it's going to be approximately the location or the orientation that we like, because we're going to add some joints to it right now. So let's right click. We're going to go isolate on our hinge assembly. Now, if I expand this, we can see we've got 3 bodies. The problem with bodies is we cannot use joints. We cannot assemble them. They need to be components. So what we're going to do is just right click and we're going to create components from bodies. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to have 3 components, and why don't we just leave them? We could put those, well, I'll just name this a pin. Why not? And I don't know the technical terms for these, but I'll just call this the this one's going to be called the jam side, and this one's going to be called our door side. So please let me know the technical term for those as well. But now we have to create some relationships between these. So as you can see, they're not connected. Well, what we can do is let's join let's create an in as built joint. So let's pick that, and we're going to pick our pin and then our jam side. There we go. And this one's going to be a revolute. And we'll pick the snap point. Oh, I picked the wrong snap point right there. So I'm going to pick the midpoint. And now you can see our pin is freely rotating on the inside. Perfect. And now we can do the same thing with this point right there, or this part of our hinge. So we can do an as-built joint. We'll pick this guy and our pin. And then our snap point is going to be right there. And this is going to be a revolute as well. Now we can put motion limits on this so it can only go so far. Why don't we do that? Minimum. We can just grab this. And this is going to only be able to go so far. Let's just go 180 degrees. Why not? And our maximum, this guy right here. Actually, our minimum is going to be 0 and our maximum is going to be 180, just like that. And we can preview limits. Perfect. So that's just going to be the extent of our door movement right there. Perfect. Now, because we've done all the work with one hinge, and you can see under this particular hinge, we've got our subassembly of all these different elements. And now we can just copy and paste. So we're going to paste 3 of these. Let's paste again under our right door. And we can actually take these 3 and we can copy and paste them under our left door. Perfect. Let's just go OK. Now, still under our right door, let's isolate everything. And now, which joint or which set of hinges do we want to pick? Well, we can pick this one. As soon as we click it in our browser, we can move that off to the side, pick the middle one, move this one off there, and our last one on the bottom. So now let's just joint these into location. So I'm going to go to joints. And I'm going to pick this part of the hinge assembly. And I'm going to snap it right there. Why not? And I'm just going to move this down. Let's move it down a couple inches and go OK. And you can see everything. And I don't know why it moved the entire door off to the side. But that's OK. Let's just move that on over. We can do the same thing. Let's join it. You know, we don't want the door moving. We like the door location. So let's not snap there. Let's pick our face first and then our snap point. And there we go. Move this into place 180 degrees. And we can revert position as well. Yeah, it's seeming to want to move the door off to the side. And we don't like that. So we just go revert position. Don't capture it. There we go. And we'll do the same thing right there. Let's move this on up 2 inches. Perfect. Now we've got this hinge assembly. Okay, very good. So we've got that door done. And now all we need to do is lather, rinse, repeat. Do it on the left door as well. So let's isolate that. And we will join all of these into proper location. So let's do that real quick. Very good. Let's take a look at our entire assembly here and we can unisolate all. And there we have it. So this is great. So now that we've finished all of our assembling and everything, we can input this or insert it into our other design. So let's go save. So now we'd like to insert the door template into our master assembly. But before we do that, we need to finish the jambs and we need to finish the lintel as well. So this is going to be on in our siding subassembly. So let's pick siding. We can actually isolate this. We kind of think it would be part of the front wall, but this actually goes on the outside of our siding. So they're kind of trim pieces. So we'd like to include that with our siding subassembly. So now what we can do is let's create a new component. And this is going to be called our lintel. And next we're going to create a component and we're going to call this our door jamb. There we go. Now we could just create some more relationships here. We could project the geometry of our siding into a location, but I don't think that's necessarily needed. When it's a very simple component, I like to just measure. So again, the width here is 66 inches. Our lintel is going to go on the top. So what I'd like to do is activate the lintel and just create a primitive. We can go to box. We can really create it on any plane and then joint it into location. So I'm going to go right here and let's create it this direction just so it doesn't throw everyone off. This one's going to be 3.5 inches tall, 66 plus 3.5 times 2. So you'll see, if that doesn't make sense to you, you'll see what that does in a second. This is going to be 1.5 inches thick. And now we can just joint it. So let's grab our lintel here. I'm just going to grab the center point right there and snap it right there. And we're good to go. So this is overlapping the width of a 2x4. We'll do this exact same thing with our door jamb. Let's activate it. We'll create a primitive box and we'll create it here. I'll do the exact same thing. So let's go to 87.5 inches by 3.5 inches wide, 1.5 inches thick. And we'll just join these as well. This one, however, we have to join the top right there. Perfect. And we can spin this around. And I've gone to the wrong edge, so I have to reselect it. There we go. And this should be, oh boy, now I've gone and done it. No, let's restart this one more time here. So let's select our first snap point, and we're going to pick this outside corner and this one, and it should go into place. There we go. And for our first door jamb, we haven't created both door jambs because right now it's going to be the exact same copy of the other. So I'm just going to copy, paste under siding, and we've got 2 door jambs. I can just move this over. Perfect. Let's activate door jamb number 2. And here I'm going to joint into location as well. So let's do that here. We can join, and that's going to be that point to that point. There we go. So now we've got our door jambs and our lintel there in place. So let's activate siding. And now what we can do is insert our door assembly into location. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to open up our data panel and we're going to go to our door template, making sure that siding is active, and we're going to insert into current design. There we have it. I'm just going to pull this assembly off to the side. And now if we expand siding, we can see that our door template is linked. That means if we change anything in our door template original file, it will automatically update here. But we don't want to do that. We want to have full control of our door template at this point. So what we're going to do is right click and break link. Break link. Right now, if we go to parameters, you can see that our height and our width of our door opening is not selectable. So if we go to break link, that link goes away. And if we go back to parameters, now we can change the width and the height. Again, I could just change this right here if I wanted, and it will adjust it correspondingly to whatever our door opening is. So let's go OK. Now, before we proceed, we actually have to create a rigid group between our door jamb and the lintel to our siding. So let's create that rigid group. We're going to pick 1, 2, let's go OK. And pick our siding right there, and let's just create a rigid group. Now, that way we can't move anything now. If we didn't create that rigid group, we could accidentally, I'll just show you, we can accidentally move those pieces, which we don't want to do. So that rigid group is going to save us. And now our doors, our individual doors can move, but we need to join them into location. So let's join, and we're going to pick a point on our hinge. It can be just one of our hinges. So let's go in here. I actually don't know how far to move it in. So I'm going to pick that face and this face just to see. The distance is 0.93. Let's go from there to there, 0.216. So we can, let's go joint, and we can just pick this point right there. Why not? And we can go to the midpoint of our opening. Let's not do that. There we go. And let's just make sure that this is oriented the right way. There we go, 180, and everything should snap into place. That looks really good. We'll do the same thing with this other door. There we go. Our doors are in the right location, but I believe the gap is probably off. And you can see it here. Yeah, the gap here is smaller than the mid gap, and that's because we based it off of the hinge and we don't know the exact hinge dimension. But here you can see it's 0.216. So if I move it over 34 thou, it should be just tickety-boo. So let's move this on over, and we're going to call it minus 34 thou. There we go. We'll do the exact same thing over here. Move it on over minus 34 thou. Perfect. And now these gaps should be spot on. 1/4 inch. Yep. This one is also going to be 1/4 inch. Now everything looks great. Very, very good. So because we've inserted our door template into our siding subcomponent, it will turn to the exact same appearance as everything in that subcomponent. Remember, I dragged and dropped in a previous tutorial. I've taken our surface matte or white, whatever it is, enamel glossy, and I put it into our entire subassembly. So everything that goes into that subassembly will be the same appearance. Now, the one thing I don't want are our hinges. We want to keep these polished stainless steel. So let's just go to A, and believe we don't have stainless there, so let's type in stainless and stainless steel polished. I'm just going to drag and drop over the hinges, and they should all turn stainless. Maybe they don't. No, they don't. So I'm just going to drag and drop over each of them. We can pick all 3 of them actually and drag and drop polished. There we go. So now we've got those hinges in place. I'm going to save. We're going to activate everything, unisolate all. So we've got our entire shed visible right now. And now let's just do some motion study. So I'm going to bring that off to the side. Let's bring up a motion study. And it asks, well, what joint do you want to animate? So let's just pick one there. We can pick a point, and let's just go an angle of 20 degrees and see what this does. There we go. All right, so that door opens, and if you've never done a motion study before, I will put a link at the top right of your screen. You can check it out to do simple motion studies. But this way we can, open up those doors, and believe it or not, why don't we click on this and we'll make it the full 180 degrees. There we go. And we can, all right, this is really whipping there. So this we can move on over to, let's go to 45 or 50. There we go. Perfect. We'll move this over to 50. Oh, let's get rid of those. Okay, there we go. Angle of 180. There we go. We've created a little motion study now so we can see what's happening. And it's looking really good. You can see the doors are opening just right. Very good. All right. So we can pause that. We can go OK, and we can leave those doors open just for fun. Everything is looking great. So if you have benefited at all from this tutorial, please comment below what have you benefited from. If you've really liked it, please consider subscribing, hitting that notification bell, or becoming a member. Future tutorials, everyone, we're going to create the bill of materials, proper drawings, renders, and then also an animation of this shed being assembled. So stay tuned for future tutorials. Thanks again for tuning into the Learn It channel. Take care and see you soon.